and I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Waterbury Select Board for Monday, April 21st to order. We're in person in the Steel Community Room and online on Zoom. Our first item of business is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion with regards to the agenda? Okay, motion by Troy to approve the agenda.
Second,
Second by Kane. Is there any discussion? Kane?
I'd like to amend the consent agenda and move items F and I to a separate vote.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Kane, second by Mike. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we've removed those two items more formally than is necessary. So Kane's taking those up. Any other discussion on the agenda? We had one additional request for a liquor permit for the Blush Hill Country Club for an outside consumption permit. So if amenable to the board, we could add that to the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the Blush Hill item onto the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Second by Roger. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. I think we now have a twice amended agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So now the consent agenda is modified to include the published items. A, the minutes of our last regular select board meeting, a first-class restaurant and bar license for Jim's Pizza LLC, a second-class and tobacco license for Quinlan Farms, a first and third-class club license for Waterbury Legion, a first-class restaurant and bar license for Expedition 6 LLC, Tropic Brewing, first-class restaurant bar license for Country Club of Vermont, first and third restaurant and bar license for Eat Enterprise LLC, Maxie's, and outside consumption permit for Blush Hill Country Club. Did I see him? Is there a motion with regards to the consent agenda? Roger,
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
is there a second?
Second,
Any questions on this? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? As requested, we have then the next two items that were requested to be separated out. So that was the request to cater permit for WIC LLC. It's a cater permit for the gravel grinder fundraiser. Folks do have behind their agenda a printout map that was submitted with the application and is posted online using the 2 tickets from the entry fee and then also a first and third class restaurant / bar license and outside consumption permit for WIC LLC. Is there a motion with regards to those items? Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Tori, second by Mike. Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Kane will be abstaining. All right, that brings us through consent agenda. Our next item is public. This is in,
How about item I?
Alyssa.
oh, did I not read I? I thought I read F and I.
Oh, was that F and I together?
Going back to the last one, in full disclosure, would Kane consent to abstain because his
because they are my employer, and so I have abstained.
Yeah, he did abstain.
Oh, I didn't, she didn't say it.
Yeah, so he
I didn't hear it. Okay.
So just to
Senior-
clarify for those following along at home, one, I'll just say out of Robert's rules, any board member can take anything off the consent agenda. We don't even need a motion, but this is how we've done it in the past. So I'm following along. Consent, we approve as a package without things. Kane, when we originally did the agenda, requested to remove F and I. We also chose to add J for the Blush Hill Country Club. The first set of motions that everyone voted unanimously for was everything as printed except F and I, but including the new one. And then this last item was for F and I and Kane abstained.
Okay.
So those were the.
Yes, if folks prefer to do a separate motion, that's fine. Good. Any other questions on this? All right, that brings us to public. So this is an opportunity to comment on items that are not already otherwise on the agenda. It's limited comment, so up to 5 minutes. The board does not respond to those. If we need further discussion, then we will have the opportunity to put it on a future agenda. Is there anyone who would like to speak on public comment? Yes, Valerie, please come up. And thank you all. Now use the moment to say we ask everyone to come up so that folks online on Zoom can hear us.
So I did have a question. Thank you very much. I had a question for Tom, the manager. Is he not here?
No, I should have said happy school vacation week to all those celebrating, which includes our municipal manager,
Okay,
Tom Lights.
it's about the conflict of interest. Regarding select board, having, task force from a couple weeks ago. May I still talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think what happened a couple weeks ago, Roger brought up during the housing task force discussion for the home improvement program. He just questioned Tom about, might there be a conflict of interest? And he said, and you bring it up quite often, and I appreciate that. I believe what he said was that we were in the clear and there was likely no conflict of interest. He did say that he could formally reach out and ask someone else to maybe take a look at that to make sure. Do you know if that's been done? Did he ask for anyone to formally review select board, housing task force, relationships, roles and responsibilities?
We did get two legal opinions on the conflict of interest between revitalizing Waterbury and my being on the select board. So yes, there is.
And I just brought that up because, although he said it was clear, there wasn't. I think to me, there is some blurred lines, and I will just say why. Roger, you're on revitalizing Waterbury, the executive director. You oversee the housing task force. Underneath revitalizing Waterbury is the housing task force on your website. You are the executive director of revitalizing Waterbury, and I believe a couple of weeks ago, you did say that you are pretty passionate prioritizing affordable and accessible affordable housing. Underneath the revitalizing Waterbury website is the housing task force, whether they're related or not, I can't say for sure. On the housing task force, Alyssa, you're the chair of the select board, you're also on the housing task force.
Yeah, I want to clarify. So we actually have housing task force on our agenda tonight, and there's a printout of actually the charge that the select board approved
Sure.
of its membership. So I just want to say there is a municipal housing task force. It has 4 appointed members, including a select board member, a planning commission member, and an E-Flood commissioner, and revitalizing Waterbury staff are appointed. I am not aware of if there's a separate revitalizing Waterbury task force, but again.
No, the website may be deceiving. I only have 5 minutes, I'm gonna be really quick, I promise. Because you are on the housing task force and the select board, I think there may be a conflict of interest, and I will say because 2 weeks ago, when you were presenting the home improvement program, you were presenting as a select board member, but also as a volunteer on the housing task force. So the program is something that you helped develop and draft. And so what I will say about that is I don't think that if you are a select board member and you're on the housing task force, you should be a decision maker on to approve a program developed by the housing task force. And I know you didn't recuse yourself and you didn't have to because there were 3 other members that motioned approval. But I would say that because Roger's on revitalizing Waterbury, you're on the housing task force, the select board in general created the housing task force, which is all about affordable housing for Waterbury residents and new residents to come. In Kane, you run the platform of affordable housing for all of the workers in Waterbury. So I feel that there may be a conflict of interest from my point of view. And the request that I was going to make respectfully to Tom is to have that formal evaluation of responsibilities and roles with the select board, housing task force, in terms of your roles as elected officials and also your personal interests when you are a volunteer on a board, on a committee. And second, I would request that if you are on the housing task force and you are also an elected select board member, that you should recuse yourselves from any decision-making responsibilities regarding the housing task force. And I know you didn't have to do that, but I think that that is something that should be a known.
I'm gonna jump in here. The Housing Task Force is a committee that answers to the select board. So they make recommendations to us. We either move with or move against recommendations, just like any other committee.
But there seems some commingling of everybody. I mean, it's hard to be an elected official, to be, you know, responsible or at least trying to look out for your constituents, while keeping your personal interests separate. And if you're on the select board, making decisions that the housing task force brings to you, but you might have this personal investment as a volunteer, I think there may be some conflict of interest. Especially if you do answer. If they answer to you, the you created the housing task force, the group.
Yes.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is I think there may be a conflict of interest as elected officials making decisions when you're also on the board of the committee as a volunteer.
So I'll say we've already gone off my thing, which is that we're gonna respond. My thought would be that we say, thank you very much, Valerie. We'll have Tom look into it. And as I noted, we do have housing task force on the agenda right later tonight with
Thank
more
you.
information. Thank you. Is there other folks who want to speak on? Mike, you didn't get a chance, but
I do agree with Valerie. I think select board members on these committees should not be voting members. They should be ex officio members. I think that that's a much more appropriate role for a select board member. Yes, I think we can add a lot to both discussions at hand, but to be a voting member probably is not appropriate because things could come back, that's potential. And personal opinion label as such.
Yeah. All for it. Love running things by town attorney. Support it. I think we should still do it. But I will say, under a conflict of interest policy, conflict is only coming up if you hold an office within the public body or like task force or whatever. Being a general member wouldn't necessarily create that conflict. Also, under subsection 2, conflict of interest, it does say it does not apply to members' particular political views or general opinion on a given issue. Just gonna throw out that text for everybody, but like I said, totally in support of having somebody else go over. Sure.
anyone else who wants to speak on public comment? Let's come on.
Politics seems to be the topic for tonight. Chris Viens. You all know that, or most of you know that I was a select board member for 10 years. And I've pretty much been at all the select board meetings since I got off the board, outside of maybe the number I can count on my hand. I took my position on the select board very seriously. I didn't come to the select board with an agenda or a narrative. My goal was simply accomplish the town's work in an affordable aspect and in a way that we could save the taxpayers as much money as we can and still accomplish our goals, meet our goals. I took the position so seriously that when my term came up and I ran for select board again, when I went to the voting booth, I would never vote for myself because I believe so strongly that it was the people's choice. And I didn't want to have any decision in that or effort in tipping that scale at all, even if it were just one vote. That's how serious I was about the democratic process. So at the last select board meeting, we had the select board interview and nominate school board members to represent the town of Waterbury. Sitting back here, you can see that it was a clear, difficult effort, as is most efforts. That's why some people love me on the select board, other people hated me because I was never afraid to be the bad person or the person to speak my piece.
voice my opinion, whether you like it or not, and that's still the way I am. But I can see, I watch, and I see it, I pay attention how difficult it is to be that person that might be looked down upon for their decision making. But having said that, the choices were made by the Waterbury Select Board, who they felt should represent us at the school board level. And unfortunately, one of our select board members, Tori, attended the school board meeting and weighed in on promoting Pam, I forget her last name, as a nominee for that position. I watched the film, I watched the video. Unfortunately, and this isn't personal, don't take it personal. You didn't divulge that you were a select board member, and you didn't divulge that you were a former school board member. You weighed in on your opinion about Pam. So much so that one of the other school board members made the statement, and his name was Jonathan, that Pam's push, or Tori's push, representing Pam, was certainly an indication, a reason that he voted yes for Pam. I was a little upset the fact that the school board chair didn't take and talk about, she talked about Dan. Dan was the first nomination that came up. But then Elizabeth Brown was passed over for Pam, who got nominated by one of the other board members. Dan and Elizabeth should have been the first two in line, and if Elizabeth failed, then there should have been the ability to nominate somebody else. To me, Tori's effort was a clear overstep as a select board member. And to the point of being very egregious overstep, to the point of almost calling for resignation because of it. I think I'm gonna call for an investigation, ethics investigation on this. Look into it. See what you find yourself, and we'll be waiting to hear from you. So again, please don't take it personally. It's all about the position. And how you represent us.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Other folks for public comment? Please. Okay. And everyone on Zoom, please let me know if there's someone to admit. There's a lot happening. I would think to this meeting.
Just a question, with what Val was saying. Roger, you mentioned a couple of attorneys that you'd spoken to, or that Tom was going to speak to. I don't know which one did. Who were the attorneys were spoken to? I would just like that to be public, so if we do refer to an attorney, I'd like to include attorneys out there speaking about these types of things. And I wasn't aware of what had happened, just like we're going to be on, so we're running and not watch the video. But I will say that it is disappointing to hear that you participated, since you already had a vote here on the board. So I do agree that that was part of it.
Anyone else who would like to speak on public comment? Lisa, I have the printout of Green Up Day, which I'm happy to read, but if you would prefer to give the announcement yourself. Our next select board meeting won't be till after Green Up Day, so I didn't know if you were curious in sharing wearing your Green Up hat, or I can read this as public comment.
Print out of what, from the.
Just from the municipal website, the Green Up Day.
That's fine. That's good. Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate it.
Acknowledging Lisa Scagliotti, the town's Green Up Day coordinator. As a public announcement, I would note that Green Up Day is Saturday, May 3rd. If you go to the homepage of the Waterbury town website, there's a banner you can click on. Bags will be available at the town offices and Rodney's transfer station. There is a sign up form, so you can sign up where you're going to Green Up in town. Please do not leave bags on the roadsides on May 3rd. Bring filled up bags to the town garage from 8 AM to 4 PM or Rodney's before 4 PM and on Friday. Anyway, all the info is on the town website. All of that just to say thank you to Lisa for being our coordinator. The green up day bags are available before May 3rd. And it's great to sign up for the roads you're planning to do because it lets us have a better coverage of town. Anything else? Awesome.
Thank you.
And the only other public announcement is the Planning Commission is having their fourth and final visioning session on Tuesday, May 29th, in this room from 5 to 7 PM for all those interested. Any other public comments? Someone to admit online and then we'll move right along. All right. Next up, that brings us to municipal board and commission interviews and appointments. With apologies for the amount that I'm talking, I'm going to try and give some quick background to both the board, the public, and all attending about what this process is and where we are. For select board members and also the public online, I did my best to do a Waterbury Municipal Board and Commissions availability for appointments. This was a spreadsheet I got from Karen Petrovich, our town clerk, around what openings are available on various boards and commissions. Of particular note is the terms of those. Different boards have different amounts of terms, 3-year term, 4-year term. Sometimes folks rotate off a board before their term is up. So then we have things like 1-year remaining term available ending. The reason this is all written out, particularly for select board members, is because if we were interested in making appointments, those motions usually take the form of I'm appointing a human to a 3-year term on board or commission ending April, insert date. So that language is here. Happy to take input from other board members. I will say there's been a variety of practices around these in the past in Waterbury. So we have folks who have served on boards and commissions for a term. Their term has been completed. We have always offered those folks the opportunity for reappointment to say, do you want to keep serving on a board or commission that you're serving on? So that outreach happened. It was a combination of municipal staff and myself reaching out to folks and saying, you're some of the humans whose terms up. Are you interested in being reappointed? I will say in the past, there has been very strong, if not exclusive preference given to those folks. So essentially everyone who's wanted to be reappointed has been reappointed. I'm just sharing that as information for the board. We've taken to asking folks to prepare, submit a cover page application. And then with apologies, there was a disparate communications, particularly for new board members. We've asked for a resume or a cover letter. We have some of those from returning folks as well. I think the only other note I would say, the housing task force, which was mentioned, is later on in your packet. And as I mentioned, it's a separate agenda item because that group, when it was created, didn't have terms. So there's a question here today for the board around, do we want to create terms before we appoint anyone? I think that's what I have. I will say in terms of inviting folks here today, I invited anyone who had not previously been appointed to a municipal board or commission and said, tonight is interview night. You're welcome to attend. I did hear from some that were unable to attend or have specific time constraints. I did not email everyone who was up for reappointment and say, come in tonight. I know we have a number of those folks here. I think we can absolutely hear from them, but in transparency for everyone, I just want to say they were not provided by me or, as far as I'm aware, other municipal staff in expectation of being here tonight, but I didn't explicitly invite everyone who was a new potential appointee. And I think the only other note is for the Conservation Commission specifically. I believe there are some folks who are interested in being reappointed that we didn't have information from. So I'm going to propose that we consider those at a future meeting. We do have one vacancy, but also some reappointments. And it sounds like there was some clerical stuff there. But otherwise, I would say we have an order as proposed on the agenda to go through folks. I know in the past, sometimes we've done motions as we go, or we've interviewed everyone up front and done motions at the end. That's, again, enough of my talking and up for all of us to decide how we'd like to structure. Mike.
Just a quick comment. I know I've gotten comments from several of the different boards and commissions about this process. And I do think those folks who are looking to re-up, maybe become a protocol that they submit their application. Each one of us are liaisons to various, boards and commissions. We know if a board or commission is unhappy with a particular individual, that maybe it's just, I know it's not formally required, but I think they kind of want to have that more, as protocol, that they don't have to necessarily come into a select board meeting. And I don't know if we just want to make that kind of policy.
Great. Any questions or comments on this? Rod?
I would suggest that we take them, one committee at a time. The question as to, whether all of the people listed have expressed interest in serving, again.
I would say most, but not all. Subsequently, you should find all of the printed applications corresponding to the order. So there's the ability to preference prints on some, but I would say for planning commission and development review board, all of the currently serving folks expressed interest in serving. And that's true for some other committees as well. So first on the list, we have planning, and I did my best for folks who were new applicants to put their application under the board, which they expressed the most preference. So we would plan to hear from them at that point. Planning commission, we have applications from Dana Allen and Robbie Adler, again, both currently serving, both interested in continuing. I don't think either of them are present tonight. Martha, who's the chair of the planning commission, is here. Any questions or a motion with regard to the planning commission? Roger.
I'll move to appoint, both Robert Adler and Dana Allen to, 3-year terms.
Second.
Motion by Roger and a second to appoint Robbie Adler and Dana Allen to 3-year terms on the planning commission ending April 30th, 2028. Is there any further discussion or questions? Right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next up, we have the Development Review Board. For markers, we have 3-year terms available, as was the case for the Planning Commission. We also have a 2-year alternate position available. Again, this is someone who participates if another full board member is not able to participate. As I mentioned, I believe all 3 folks here submitted applications and are interested in serving. I know Alex is online and Harry is also in the room. Harry, do you want to come up and say hello since you came out on your Monday night?
Happy to. Thanks for my home.
Have any questions for Harry? I should have also prefaced by saying thank you to all board and commission volunteers who are entirely uncompensated, even more than our select board members, for their service, whether they're choosing or interested to renew or not. Any questions anyone has?
Is there anybody of those 3, Harry, feel free to answer, that have indicated they would rather have the 1-2-year alternate term instead of the 3-year term? Or sorry, instead of the 3-year term.
Our chairman is here and we're saying everybody's looking to be a full voting member, not an alternate. All 3 are also presently full voting members too, so.
Excellent, love to hear that. Roger has a question. I'm so sorry, David. I couldn't hear that. Do you mind looking up? Sorry. You came. There was a question around desired terms for the Development Review Board. You're the chair of the Development Review Board.
So my understanding, everybody's looking to be reappointed to their full positions, but there's nobody looking to be an alternate.
Great, thank you. That was it. I heard 2-year term and got confused.
I heard 3 and thought it was 4.
Welcome. I see you served 4 already, so we appreciate that. Awesome. Roger, you have a minute.
Yeah, Harry, I'd just like to hear, why you'd like to serve another 3 years.
It means community service. It aligns with my expertise. So purpose.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Alex, I'll turn to you online.
Yeah,
Hello.
sorry I couldn't be there tonight.
No problem.
Yeah, I'd like to continue to serve on the Development Review Board, for 3 years. I think it's 3 years, maybe not, but, yeah, I think Waterbury is definitely in a transition moment, and I think the DRB has a great spot within that role to, oversee that change.
Does anyone have any questions?
Sorry,
Tori?
it looks like Brooks Fortunes is also in here.
And he's online on Zoom, so we'll stick with Alex for now. And then
Okay.
go to Brooks if that's.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
sorry, yeah.
Any questions for Alex? Roger?
We pretty much answered the question. I was
Okay,
gonna ask.
great. Any questions from any other board members? All right, and then perhaps you're leading into this, but I wanted to recognize, yes, we had next in the packet Brooks, who is also here on Zoom. Hi, Brooks.
Hi
Who
there.
also expressed interest in the Development Review Board. Do I want to cede it to Roger to ask her opening question?
Sure, could you tell us why you'd like to serve?
Yes, thank you. Primarily, I just want to serve the community here. I've made time on my schedule as a result of having come out for a school board appointment. My skills in my profession basically involved interpreting words other people wrote and applying those. Today was the Bayh-Dole Act Day, last week the Tax Code Day, and the week before that, the Harmonized Tariff Schedule Day. So I believe my skills are appropriate for this role. I've represented architects, structural engineers, general contractors. That's it. Thanks.
Any questions from you? Kate? And then.
Brooks, it says on your, letter that you also seek appointment to conservation or recreation boards or committees. Is there one particular, is the Development Review Board the one that you're most interested in, or is it just general, want to serve your community?
The latter is most true. I think my skill set best suits the Development Review Board, and that's the board that I'm most familiar with. I discussed with Tom Leitz, the Recreation and Conservation Board, and so I've thrown myself out there for a number of different things, and it seems like the Development Review Board might be full. There is one caveat in that my wife has also volunteered for the Conservation Board, and we can't both be on that board because one of us needs to watch the kids. So I guess I've come out for the Development Review Board and the Recreation Board only. Although I'm happy to discuss with any of you or Tom Leitz. If other boards need volunteers, I'm happy to do that as well.
Thank you. Mike, you had a question?
I was just gonna make a motion.
Okay, great. And I'll just acknowledge, we also have an application from George Lester, who's again, a current Development Review Board member seeking reappointment as well as a letter. Any questions, Kane?
Before making a motion. We have four. Right, it's 4 seats in the DRB. One of them is the alternate, and then the 3 have been applied for by sitting members. As I understand it,
That
we've
is,
got 4 applicants, 3 open seats, and then the alternate seat.
that is my understanding also. Okay, Mike, oh, sorry. Okay, we'll let Mike go and then after question.
Just before making a motion, just want to, as a former member of the Development Review Board, all the alternates that are selected are fully engaged in the process. It's not that they just show up and if there's a full board, they show up. And if there's not a full board, they get to participate as a regular member. So it's been historically a good grooming way to get new new and talented people on the development board.
Right. David,
Or just-
no, thanks for coming up.
As the chair of that board, just gonna clarify and reiterate Mike's comment that we do encourage all of our alternates to attend all the meetings. And they are allowed to participate during the meeting, but if there are 7 board members there that are not alternates, then the alternates just can't vote. But they can participate in the discussions, just are not a voting member that evening. But they are encouraged to attend, because if an application gets continued, they may be a voting member at a future meeting.
The gentleman, I think, wrote the books.
Yes.
Did apply for these, so the school board position, correct?
Correct.
And I believe I asked at the last one, and perhaps you could address him and ask him why he stormed out of the meeting the last time he was there.
I declined to respond to that question.
I what?
I also feel that question is inappropriate in this context. I'm interviewing for a volunteer position on the Development Review Board, on the Recreation Board. You know, it's specious to claim that I stormed out of that meeting. I walked out of the meeting.
Can I just explain why I asked? I asked.
I'll note you made a comment, yeah, to me, us as the
Right,
chair.
I did. And did you follow up with him to find out why that happened?
I did not.
Okay, so I asked because I think it was extremely rude of the other people that were here to apply. And it doesn't sound like he wants to respond, which probably validates the fact that he did storm out. And I think that says something about his temperament and should be considered.
I disagree. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the board? Does anyone want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve George Lester, Harry Shepherd, and Alex Tolstoy for 3-year terms ending in 2008, and Brooks Fortune.
2028.
What?
2028.
2028, sorry, and Brooks Fortune to participate as a 2-year alternate ending in 2027.
For a second,
Second.
motion by Mike, second by Roger. Is there any further discussion? Good. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Next up is the Conservation Commission, and flipping on through paper. So as I stated, Conservation Commission does have 3 folks with expiring terms. Amy Marshall Carney, who's the chair, I believe is online. Hi, Amy. And has indicated that Richard is not asking to be reappointed. It sounds like Meg and Rachel are interested. Neither Tom Lights nor I received a application of Border Commission applications. We do have an additional application from Anne Marie, who I believe is online. So we can chat with her now. Hi, Anne Marie.
Hi, sorry, we're swapping off child duty, so I appreciate you all taking us via Zoom.
No problem, and thanks for having both names present. I will lead off with our opening question, which is thank you for your application and your letter, and just if you wouldn't mind reiterating your interest in why you'd like to serve on the Conservation Commission.
Great, yeah, hi everyone, my name is Anne Marie Fortune. I'm interested in the Conservation Commission. Honestly, the mission is just really exciting to me. I'm passionate about meeting that mission, and I'm hopeful that, you know, my professional experience might provide added capacity to our town and helping to meet some of our community priorities. I currently work for an environmental consulting firm where I primarily support brownfield redevelopment work and kind of seeing those projects through the regulatory side of things, helping build complex funding stacks to help those redevelopments happen, and also support some of our other science and engineering work from a planning perspective. So identifying opportunities for community engagement. So yeah, I guess I'm just excited to see if those skills can help support my own community, and I can learn more about Waterbury and what we're most interested in, as well as how our local government works.
Thank you. Any questions? Mike?
Anna Marie, first of all, thanks as always for applying. I always think public service is a noble thing. But I do want to ask you, in your current position with the doing environmental work, have you ever done any environmental work with the town of Waterbury?
I have not, no.
Okay, has your firm, do you?
To be quite honest, I'm not positive if my firm has. I don't believe that we are the firm supporting like the flood resiliency plans in Waterbury or anything like that. But we do provide services across the state of Vermont. I personally have not worked on a project in Vermont. So. I mean, in Waterbury, sorry.
I knew what you meant.
Any other
And
questions?
certainly, like if any opportunities did arise, I would disclose that, if my firm were to try and support a project or vice versa, I would make that known or step away from any, conflicts of interest that might be present.
Any other questions?
No, not for Anne Marie. You said it's your understanding that Richard does not want to be reappointed.
Correct, that is my understanding, and Amy is here.
Yeah, that's right. Richard, yep, he has stepped away. Both Rachel and Meg are interested. And yes, to Alyssa's point, they did not get their applications in before tonight. I know Meg just recently sent one this evening, but I haven't seen one yet from Rachel. So we do have an available vacancy that's not of interest to current members.
I would like to move to appoint Anne Marie, Meg, and Rachel to the 4-year terms ending in 2029.
Second that.
Motion by Tori, second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Kane?
I'd be on board with, appointing Aaron, but since we don't have the other two applicants there, let's keep ourselves.
Mike?
I could, as the liaison, speak to, I think both of those members are active participants in the committee, and I would give them both my support.
Other questions? I will also say we could also take up their nomination at a later meeting, so clearly we have a motion on the table for all three. I will say, speaking for myself, not as chair, we also could make a motion on Anne Marie tonight and revisit the other ones once we receive those materials at a future meeting, if that's a desire of the board.
I think especially because we have a history there of returning members, I think we can just discuss, consider their applications today.
Right, and I will note, again, as of the beginning of this meeting,
Right.
we didn't have those applications in the hand, so for me, that is a bit of a distinction. We approved planning commission members who were not present and development reviewer, but submitted applications. At the beginning of this meeting, we didn't have applications, so speaking for myself, that is a slight distinction. Question was, are board members required?
Our commission members.
Yeah, our commission members required to be a resident. My understanding is no, it is not a formal requirement. We do ask on folks' application if they are or are not a resident. I will say, in practice, most folks are. The times I can think of were things like in energy committee, or I believe one member of the natural disaster preparedness committee lives in Duxbury. But for these boards and commissions, I don't believe it's a legal requirement. Roger?
This came up last year, when we were appointed Richard Cohen. He's a resident of Duxbury. There were no other applicants for the position, and so he has to be considered. And appointed.
To be fair, he lives on our side of the mountain.
You can see his house.
I thought maybe moved out of town. So I don't know.
Good, so we had, sorry, we had another comment, Chris? Do you mind? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I didn't make David do it either. It's hard to enforce.
Following up Dave's comment, I think just moving forward, we need to tread lightly on that aspect of having people from out of town on our commissions, simply because they're making decisions for the people of this town, and they live in a different town, and I just think that's a little bit. When it comes to things that are really financially impacted. That's for the people in this town to decide, and I know it's tough to get volunteers.
Thanks. Kane and then Roger.
I'm just gonna say that Mike's full of confidence works for me. Withdraw my previous game.
Roger.
I was just gonna say, the Conservation Commission works primarily as an advisory body, and makes recommendations to the planning commission and to the select board. You know. So just-
So motion was by Mike, who was the second? Who was the second?
I second it. Corey.
I made it.
Oh, okay, Tori made.
Tori made the motion.
Tori made the motion, thank you, Mike seconded, just wanting to reiterate, to appoint, Anne Marie, Meg Baldor, and Rachel Campbell for the Conservation Commission for, they do 4-year terms. Ending April 30, 2029. Is there further discussion?
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Yeah, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm gonna abstain because for the procedure of the thing. So motion passes. Congratulations. Thanks for serving. All right, that brings us to Recreation Committee. Next up, we have, as was mentioned, it looks like 3-year terms available, as well as 1 year remaining on a term. We have both Phoebe Pelkey and it may have gotten out of order in my pocket. But I believe Emma also wanted to be reappointed.
Yeah.
Do we-
Okay,
thank you.
you've got a photocopy application.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm missing in my copy Emma's, but yes, both Phoebe and Emma are currently serving and expressed interest in reserving. I don't see either of them present online or in the room. Any other discussion or motions with regards to recreation?
I think it could be worth appointing Brooks to the other absent, there's 3-year terms available. He did express an interest in recreation as an alternate. So I would like to make a motion to appoint Brooks, Emma, and Phoebe for the 3-year terms. I think.
So a second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Tori, second by Mike, to reappoint Emma and Phoebe and also appoint Brooks. Brooks is here online. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Kane?
Are you gonna have time for 2 committees?
Yeah, yeah, don't, yes, I am. Unequivocally.
All right, is there other questions? All right. Motion second, any other questions, any further discussion? Roger?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Books, they're available a 3-year term and a 1-year term on the Recreation Committee. Do you have a preference?
3-year term, please.
any other questions or discussion from the board? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Right, we have some new Recreation Committee appointees, and we do, again, still have 1-year term remaining, so that can still be advertised for other folks. That brings us to Natural Disaster Preparedness Committee. We have 1 3-year term and 1 2-year term that are open. John Malter is currently serving and interested in being reappointed. Again, I don't think I see him or other folks here.
He called me and said he could not be on.
I'll go ahead and speak to you here, John. Part of the Safe Haven Committee. He does have other focuses outside of the community, and he does make sure that they're prepared with minutes, he keeps the discussion in line for the most part. He's been a very valued member of this committee thus far.
Anyone like to make a motion? Roger?
I had a question, for Kim, possibly about, what we anticipate, the natural disaster, preparedness committee, doing over next year, because they finished their first task, which was to, complete the guide, and, I know they expressed interest in continuing forward, but do we have a, plan of work?
Yes, as I understand it, they will act as an advisory board for the natural disaster coordinator.
Discussion, Mike?
Is there any movement to change the number of meetings or something that the committee will have over the course of time?
It has been discussed, nothing concrete has come out of those conversations, I can definitely give them another push to increase the amount of meetings, but I think with the creation.
Increase the number of meetings?
I mean, they only have 1 month. But I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. What I will say is with a potential incoming natural disaster coordinator, I think the structure of the committee will change somewhat from what it has been, moving into an advisory role. And as someone who's not a fortune teller, I can't tell you what those meetings will become. Thank you.
I would also note, I slightly misspoke and note that Emily Guile, am I saying that correctly, also was a new applicant, who was also interested in the Natural Disaster Preparedness Committee. She did inform me today that she was traveling and it's midnight in Europe, so she's unable to attend. But we have materials from her as well and specific interest in this committee. Roger.
I'll move to appoint, John Malter to a 3-year term, ending in, 2028, and, Emily Dowd, to a 2-year term, ending in 2027.
Second.
Motion by Roger, second by Tori. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Last on this section was the tree board. Again, 2 folks currently serving with expired terms. I know Barbara Lavelt is interested in being reappointed. And we have an application for her.
We know if Nita Woodstrom is interested in being.
I emailed her, as far as I'm aware, I have not heard back.
So with this one. You don't have any indication that either has an interest in serving in the attorney.
We don't have the information either way. I haven't heard that she isn't. We certainly would have the option if the board desired to appoint her, and she could resign if she was no longer interested. Again, unlike conservation, I haven't had any conversations with anyone to provide further insight.
I think without having any indication either way, I don't want to volunteer her. So I would move to appoint Barbara Blavel to the 3-year term ending in April 30th, 2028.
Second.
Motion by Tori, second by Kane. Any further discussion? Any questions?
I welcome Nita to come back. Just let us know if she wants to.
Great, we can add it to a future agenda if needed. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. That concludes municipal board and commission interviews and appointments for now. As was noted, we have not filled every board and commission or committee. In particular, also, we have some liaisons to regional boards and commissions that did not get advertised with these slate of things. So preview for the board and others, things like the waste management district, CV fiber. We do still have a couple of additional appointments that will probably come up at our next meeting. Any other questions or discussion on this agenda item? All right. So next up, we have review of housing task force terms and appointments. Again, included in the packet for folks. So for the other ones, again, there was that document that said we have three-year terms open. So the Housing Task Force, I copied for folks, the structure as approved at the 9/19/22 Select Board meeting. I was on the board at that point. I wrote this document that was approved by the board, as is referenced in minutes with the purpose and composition of the Waterbury Area Housing Task Force. As is outlined, it includes the following members: a select board member, an EFUD commissioner, member appointee from the planning commission, staff or appointee from Revitalizing Waterbury, and then 6 other individuals noting in particular interest in affordable housing, private development, energy efficiency, social service providers. So for the board's discussion tonight, this was pulled out because we have both terms and appointments. So when we created this group, we didn't have terms. So among things we've learned is if you're creating a board or commission, you should create it with terms. I have outlined proposed terms, which we can discuss. No other board or committee had a term shorter than 3 years. So I had initially thought 2 years, but it felt weird to have it be an anomaly. So looking at 3-year terms, most of our other boards or commissions also stagger those so that your entire board or commission does not rotate off in 1 year. I think for discussion and decision for us, so for the 6 public members, you can do 2 3-year terms, 2 2-year terms, 1 1-year term, and just keep reappointing. I think the question is, as of now, again, we have these 4 other members. We could just link their term to when they serve on the other boards. So you serve as long as you're a select board member, as long as you're a planning commissioner, as long as you work at RW. Or we could have those folks have standard 3-year terms as well. But we as a board need to decide what, if any, terms we want for this, and then we could do the business of appointing them. Discussion, King?
Yeah, I think if baked into the composition of the housing task force requires the EFUD member, the planning commission member, and the Revitalizing Waterbury staff. I think if they're on boards, they for sure need to coincide with the board that they were elected to. But where I'm drawing a blank is the Revitalizing Waterbury staff member. Would Revitalizing Waterbury put forth, say, our member of Revitalizing Waterbury who serves on the housing task force, say they find a new job. The Revitalizing Waterbury put forth a new member to serve on this committee. Would that be at the discretion of the select board, or would that be at the discretion of the Revitalizing Waterbury?
It does say or appointee. So. I think it's the other discussion.
My question is, I'll ask it to Roger, would you be continuing on in your role on the housing task force?
I currently don't serve on the housing task force, so it serves our economic development director, Seti Ducati, serves there. I think I may opt to not engage in this discussion and to conflict of interest.
Well, that's kind of where I was heading, is like, I think it'd be awkward to have yourself and Owen. I think Owen does a great job. But to have both of you, to me, be very awkward. I
don't serve. Housing task force. And housing task force, just like clarification, is not part of Revitalizing Waterbury, other than it has economic development or serving on it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It would be my suggestion that of course, the select board would put forth its member to this committee as we pick our officers. I think the same should go for the planning commission, and they put forth the members to join. I think the staff of Revitalized Waterbury should still be reviewed by the select board, as they are not technically relevant.
Okay, so suggestion from King, to be clear, I have no objection. I serve on this task force. I've stated that I wrote this document. I think I will name, we have multiple discussions. So we have, again, this document authored by yours truly in 2022, when we were trying to stand this up and trying to follow the best practices around who should serve, which again has been during my time, 2 different economic development directors at Revitalizing Waterbury. So do you want to make that motion? I should be more clear. My question is, there's one question, which is, what is the charge and makeup of the housing task force? Which personally was not a discussion I thought we were having this evening. And then there was a discussion about the terms of those who are currently on it and would like to be reappointed, as well as others from the public who might be interested. So I would say by all means, go ahead and make that motion, King, if you want to
I
say.
just want to say, for all intents and purposes, the purpose of the task force as written seems like what it's been up to since its inception. So there's not, to me, there's nothing I would change about the written purpose, because that's what the task force has been doing, and it is what the example that has been made by its members is what this is, the charge. As for the composition, I think we can tell the planning commission that they need to appoint a member, right? But we can't tell EFOD that they need to appoint a member. So that's where kind of hashing out this idea in real time.
Yeah, again, I mean, I'll just name, like, we came up with this as a community group to serve housing needs in Waterbury. And again, as the person who wrote it, what was inside my brain was, we want folks, these are all stakeholders who are involved in this. So
Right.
it seems prudent to have a representative from each of these. We can talk about if and who should vote, and I'm very happy to have that conversation. But as of now, this was the group. So I'm hearing you say, though, do we want to have, so 4 terms? Again, this terms question, do we want representatives for the terms they hold their position? With RW's person validated by the select board? Is that your proposal?
Yep, that was my proposal. I can make a motion to that effect too. I lose. I'm trying to word this correctly. Yes,
What if we just, is out the composition, 1 step under the revitalizing Waterbury, subject to the
that works. That's gonna be one long motion. Yeah, all right. Hopefully. I move that the composition, the Waterbury Housing Task Force be made up of 2 volunteer 3-year terms, 2 volunteer 2-year terms, 2 volunteer 1-year terms, and 4 appointed positions. 1 by the select board, 1 by the Edward Farr Utility District, and 1 by the planning commission, and 1 staff member of Revitalizing Waterbury to be appointed by the select board.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I don't know that we're gonna restate it, but is there any further discussion?
May I offer an amendment or addition?
Yep.
I don't. You say appointed, the revitalizing Waterbury person appointed by the select board, I think you meant subject to the approval. Of the select
Yes, I
board.
accept your friendly amendment.
And then I would like to also add that the 4 members, the select board member, the EFUD member, the planning commission, revitalizing Waterbury member, serve according to the term with which they hold the position their appointment is based on. We missed that.
I accept the.
Yeah, and yeah.
Cheryl, do I want to make you read it though? Is that okay, or am I putting you on the spot?
Well, I'm.
If you need
Some of that language is specific.
Some of the language is here, but,
Later.
okay, great. Is everyone comfortable with the motion?
So the motion is essentially that the composition of the housing task force be comprised of 2 volunteer 3-year terms, 2 volunteer 2-year terms, to volunteer 1 year terms. And and 4 positions, each held by select board member, Edward Farrar, member, EFUD member, appointee from the planning commission, and 1 staff member of Revitalizing Waterbury, subject to the approval of the select board. And the other 3 serve for the duration of their terms on their original,
Respective.
on their respective boards.
Well,
There you go.
not those three.
Well,
The
the staffer from Revitalizing Waterbury would just be, they work for Revitalizing Waterbury until they retire. in theory, they would
Right,
be
so
on
they're
the-
still subject to their.
Putting our minute taker on the spot. Thank you, Cheryl
thank you,
Casey, for keeping us well documented for our meetings. So we had that motion by Kane and a second by Mike. Do we have further discussion about any of this?
And all amendments have been accepted.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, Evan had a question. Evan, will you come up?
Is it your intent that the 1 year and 2 year terms would stay as 1 and 2 year, or would they turn into staggered 3 year terms?
Great question. As outlined on this piece of paper, they would turn into staggered 3-year terms.
So that's not what was said.
I think the 1 year was to get a kind of a rotation going, and then it will change. But we can re-amend it that way.
Or should we fit it initially?
Yeah. Sorry, sure, we're gonna friendly amendment.
Yeah,
that.
friendly. Wait. We need another motion.
Yeah, okay, so I'll try.
Well,
Plus
so
the-
on the current motion, we had 3-4, we were unopposed, any opposed? Abstaining? Roger and I will both abstain. Did we want a new motion?
Yes. I move to have the housing task force have volunteer proposed terms initially, the 6 volunteers being 2 3-year terms, 2 2-year terms, and 2 1-year terms, with the intention that that the 1 year and 2-year terms stagger into 3-year terms at the end of the original term. In addition, the composition will include 1 select board member, an Edward Farr Utility District Commissioner, 1 member or appointee from the Planning Commission, and 1 staff member or appointee from Revitalizing Waterbury. That will be subject to the select board's approval. And those 4 members' terms will coincide with the term with which they hold the position their appointment is based on.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Troy, second by Kane. Any further discussion or questions, Mike?
I personally think the original motion is just fine. We're dealing with something that's gonna happen in the future, and we can change.
Mike, I made the effort to do it.
I understand, and I appreciate that, and I think it would just cloud the issue. That's our, we could say to the public, that is our intent to get rid of the 1 year position. It's more that's fine. I'm a simplistic kind of person.
Other questions or discussions? As a person, sometimes it's hard to know what will crop up as a problem later and what won't. All right, any further discussion on this? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No,
Any abstaining? 2. Someone's gonna have to check my Robert's rules, because is that
The vote
still
failed.
passing?
the vote failed.
Okay. So the vote failed, we still did set terms with less specific language.
Yes.
So with that understanding, I would say we're comfortable to move forward with appointing folks to those terms. If amenable. Hi, Joe Camerata, Chair of the Housing Task Force. Welcome. We have in fact created terms for the Housing Task Force via a series of motions for all to enjoy for future consumption. That being said, so again, as is mentioned, I am on the Housing Task Force at the meeting on Thursday. I encourage those interested in being reappointed to submit forms. We have a variety of those, including Joe. Joe is present. Joe, do you have anything you want to say about being on the Housing Task Force?
It's a wonderful experience.
Thanks, Joe. Anyone have any questions for Joe?
You've done a great job, Joe. I would like to echo Mike's sentiment, Joe. Thank you for everything you've done for the town of Waterbury thus far.
Thank you.
And I would also state that Joe is one of the 6 public members on the board currently, for folks' knowledge. The write-up wasn't as nice. We also have an application from Chris Balzano, again, one of the current members. Chris also was interested in a 2-year term, as was Joe. We also have an application from Eliza Novick Smith, again, one of the public members, also interested in a 2-year term. Then we have 2 applications. We have Skip, who is the current EFUD representative. And Owen Seti Ducati, who's the current Revitalizing Waterbury representative. And then we also have an application from Jess Nempold, I can't say your last name, who is present. Do you want to come up and say hello?
Jess Newbelt.
Newbelt,
I've
thank
heard all
you.
sorts of things. Hi, everybody. I'm Jess Newbelt. I work in affordable housing right now, but I've spent the last decade plus working across the community development industry. I'd love to volunteer for the town and one of my expertise, and I'm really impressed with what this task force has done in a short time period, and on top of do more.
Questions, Dorothy?
Is there a specific term length that you would be interested in?
Well, it sounds like the 2-year terms are taken, so 3 years. Is fine with me.
Okay,
Are all positions, public positions filled, volunteer, or have been filled and need reappointment?
I think so. Of the applications I'm naming, we have 1, 2, 3. However, Owen and Skip were not of the public. They were of the top 4, so I believe we do still have remaining open positions. We had 2 vacancies going into today.
Gotcha.
And again, I'm the current select board member, so to the extent that's consideration for other folks in appointment motions. Other questions for me, Jeff? Thanks for coming and witnessing the behind the scenes.
I appreciate the robust discussion.
Kane,
Jess, will you pronounce your last name so I don't butcher it?
Newbelt.
Newbelt.
We bought a new belt.
Got it. Thank you. I move to appoint Jess Newbelt to the Housing Task Force for the 3-year term.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, Mike?
Thank you for your work with everyone. I've worked with them for many, many years under the former.
Wait. Or actually, yeah, you said it, Eliza only wants a 2-year term, that's not her. That was.
Great, so again, at this meeting, hypothetically, because let me just say that the way public policy happens in the small town select board is Alyssa Johnson said, maybe we could do 2-year terms, and upon further research, learned it should be. So admittedly, when I spoke to folks, I said, we'll probably do 1 or 2-year terms, but we have to decide with the board as we've done here tonight. So. Choose our adventure. I would also say Katie Gallagher is the current planning commission rep and was not at the meeting on Thursday. She did receive the email. She's also recently had a kiddo. So I have no knowledge of her awareness or desire to keep serving.
So Chris and Eliza's applications for reappointment are the ones that we have from volunteers.
And
Joe.
And Joe and Judge.
And they all want 2 years. So wait, should we vote? Let's vote on Jess.
Thank you. For discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Abstain. Motion is passed. Congratulations. Thank you. All right. Is there any other motions?
I first want to ask Joe, are you sure it is 2 years?
You said.
I think 2 years is good, I mean,
I mean, there's an open 3-year one if you'd like to just go one more.
You might want to
but
retire.
there's open 1-year ones too, so.
Oh, thank you, Joe, for standing your guns.
I move to reappoint Joe Camerata to the Housing Task Force for the two-year term.
I second that.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, other motions.
All right, they all want two. Someone's gonna have to do a 1 or a 3.
Correct.
Do we, any one of the applicants who really wants to do it for the year term? Speak now for the whole appeals.
I don't think it's here.
None of them are here.
Okay. We do have one remaining 2-year term. Right?
Yeah.
I move to appoint Eliza Nevin Smith, the remaining 2-year term of the Waterbury Housing Task Force. Sorry, Chris.
Is there a second? All right, motion in a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Abstaining? All right, other motions. Great work,
I
team.
move to appoint Chris to 3-year term. Sorry, you can resign if you get stuff. For the housing task force.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who wants it? You all pointed at each other.
All right, I'll take it.
All right, motion by Troy, second by Kane. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Do you have a second on that one? Kane.
Was I?
Right.
After much debate.
So that is Chris, Joe, Jesse, and then we still have. And Eliza, we still have Owen, Skip, myself.
Sorry.
So we didn't skip Eva, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
We didn't make him subject to the approval of select board, like we did revitalize the library, so we.
It's up to the board. The board could make a motion enthusiastically supporting his continued service, but I don't know. Again, we're all
I feel
doing
like
the
as
best of this.
far as we could go would be to make a recommendation to EFUD, but they're gonna pick their own number.
Yeah,
Let Ethan do it.
Yeah.
all right, well, thank you, Skip. Okay. And then I move to appoint Owen as the revitalizing library.
Second.
Motion by Troy, second by Kane. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Any other motions? Does the board want me to continue to serve and not motion in that regard?
Yeah, I moved to,
Well, no, and genuine question, I wasn't asking, I again didn't anticipate how this meeting was gonna play out, and again, if we wanna revisit the structure of the committee before doing anything, I'm
For our
open to that
long-
too.
new rule. I move to reappoint Alyssa as the select board's member on the Waterbury Housing Task Force.
Second,
Motion and a second, is there further discussion?
would you like to take a number?
I'm happy to, if the board would like me to continue to serve.
Sounds great.
Any further discussion or questions?
Thanks for all your hard work.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstaining? All right, thank you all. Any other discussion or motions on this matter? So again, still some spots remaining, and I will say there are some folks on the committee who haven't responded yet, so we may be able to appoint them to those remaining spots. All right, as far as I'm aware, that wraps up Housing Task Force terms and appointments, which brings us to our next item, approval of Hazard Mitigation Program Advanced Assistance Project Application. We have a memo from Tom Lights, who is not present, regarding hydrology and flood grant opportunities. talking a lot, so I don't feel the need to read it out loud, but we can all take time to review. And I would also note that we've also received a resolution authorizing the submission of that. This, in short, for public consumption is to do flood mitigation work, in part due to some of the federal BRIC funding, which is no longer available. So this would be for that same scope of work that we had previously applied to a now no longer existent federal program. This is a different pot of money. We have the option to apply for it. It does actually have a lower local match, which is a positive. Payne?
I would just like to make a comment of my disappointment with the federal government in eliminating the BRIC grant program.
I move to approve the hazard mitigation program advanced assistance project application.
Second.
Motion by Tori, second by Kane. Is that signing this lovely resolution? That's signing the same thing. Roger, you're making a post.
So. let's see, oh,
Okay, great. Is there further discussion or questions on this item?
I do see that it says in the last sentence, approved locally, the application will then be submitted to FEMA for final approval, so I just. A bit closer.
You don't know, we all start keep our fingers. Yep.
Any other discussion on this? Questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Right, and does someone wanna, having now done this, I guess I'll pick my copy and sign, or did you already sign?
I have not.
All right, that we can circulate, so Tom has it on record to submit the correct. All right, that brings us to our next item, which is select board informational updates, and I'm going to immediately punt to Mike so that I'm not talking. Again, this is a time for sharing of board committee municipal updates that aren't on the agenda. It's not time for us to discuss things. It's to share back from the lovely boards and commissions that we just appointed and determine if there's things we need on future agendas. Mike, anything you'd like to share?
Not a lot. Went to the last Conservation Commission meeting. It was a very, very lively meeting. It was a lot to deal with their organization. Amy was reappointed as chair. They have a very good active board, as you know, seen with the interest. I'm amazed with, you know, they're having a full house with a 9-person, you know, board, which is very commendable. And I think I expect good things in the future from them. As to the DRB, I know they've had a few canceled meetings, but it's probably due to projects that have not gone through, and your meeting next in middle of May. Yep. And nothing going
Right now, we don't need.
right, unless something comes up, they don't meet, so next time they do, I hope to attend their meeting.
Tori, any updates to share?
Got nothing.
Nothing from. Natural disaster, but I will. Make public that I'm heavily digging into the history of policing in Waterbury and trying as best I can to find a solution to our woes.
Roger.
be meeting with the recreation committee tomorrow night.
I'm currently trying to find the update email from Tom. You'll note that I took manager out knowing that he wouldn't be here, but he did send me a couple of bullet points that I will read aloud to you. With regard to the housing task force, we now have terms. Thank you all. So that's a pertinent update. The group did meet last Thursday. After the comments we heard at the last meeting, there was additional discussion around the proposed Waterbury Home Improvement Program and the parameters, specifically looking at the income for folks who would be living in those units, work requirements, and how we calculate affordability. So there's some recommendations from the group on that to come back to us when we're ready. And I mentioned at the top, but planning commission visioning session for 29, just plugging that, and cleanup day. From Tom, he's indicated that an $150,000 in FEMA reimbursement related to the 2024 storm is headed our way. The state prompts the final grant agreement. And once those are signed, we typically have the funds within a week. It's promising and signifies our 2024 costs may be reimbursed per normal. That had been a question. We were open for 2024, 23, not sure on 24. So good news on that. The communications assistant position that we asked to be advertised is advertised on the municipal website and also in the roundabout for anyone interested in the municipal communications role. And delinquent tax letters for 2024 were sent out, and Tom just outlined the legal background on that, but just all standard procedure. Any other updates from anyone to share? Mike?
I just want to say, I know I've had conversations with Tom about this. The RV that was parked all winter along Route 100 is now gone. So I'm not exactly sure. I know we even talked about, just because I know during the winter, because it was snowed in, there was no place to really have it moved. There were some, I guess, policing concerns, and ultimately, I don't know what happened. If I know Tom thought right along Route 100 was probably not the most appropriate place. He was talking about maybe offering parking for the RV. It's a homeless person, possibly be by the town, by the ice center, by the town. I can't.
No,
The
materials.
storage area. Yeah, so I don't know if that wound up happening or if the RV disappeared into some of the other spot. But I'm glad to see that something has happened, because it's been there for quite some time. It's just not an appropriate spot.
Yep.
$150,000 reimbursement, do you have an idea of what percentage of others? Expense of what, 10, 30?
Yeah. Repeating just for online, the $150,000 for FEMA reimbursement, question about how much of that it covers of the town offline, and I don't want to speculate without Tom here. I believe it was a declared disaster, so that gets us to 75%. We are able to bill back for some expenses that were budgeted, like public works staffing, so that is helping with what we had otherwise proposed, but I know we had some major culvert expenses, so I don't know 100% where we've netted out, but we can get that information. All right. Any other updates? Brings us to next meeting agenda. If folks look at the bottom of this agenda, important notes is that our next regular meeting on Monday, May 5th, again at our new 6:30 p.m. timeframe. We're having this meeting at the fire station in part because one of the agenda items is the V-Trans presentation on the Stowe Street Bridge. They sent out postcards for that, and we just didn't know what the attendance was going to look like, so wanted to have the space just in case. Please, no one park at the fire station. There's street parking around. The other item is that the Conservation Commission helped partner with UVM students to do some other studies on potential work at Randall. So they would like to present to us. And again, that's a potential date for them, but not yet 100% confirmed. Is there other suggestions from board members on next agenda items? Kane.
As always, we can get a representative of the state police.
Roger?
I was wondering if it would be timely to discuss the potential for the development at Stanley Lawson. This discussion of Randall Meadow is on the agenda. We're going to get a number of people from that neighborhood. And then we'd also be interested to hear what's proposed at the end of the street.
Other questions or suggestions? I'll note we only have a smattering of additional board and commission appointments. Again, those regional ones, or if we get additional folks for these. The other one that, if not this meeting, could be the second meeting in May, is those updates from the Housing Task Force. it's seeming like this is a lot, but that's another item to come back on my mind. Other questions or suggestions? I will also say the Conservation Commission reached out with regards to the funding for their study. There's been conversations with the Planning Commission. Again, we're gonna know about the municipal planning grant, so I think a final decision by us on the board around the local option tax funding that was allocated to planning and conservation may be another item for the next meeting. Any others, Roger?
Yeah, I found out today that we're gonna get the result of the downtown transportation grant, which was $200,000 to repave Foundry and Bidwell Lane, and put in some new sidewalks and lamp posts. We'll hear about that on May 2nd.
Right. Any other items for our next meeting agenda? Okay, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn this regular meeting of the Waterbury Selectboard.
Second. Motion by Kane, second, it's by Tori, it's non-debatable. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, thank you all.